there is a lot of chatter about an experimental vaccine going around. We've got PhD and expert. He's a partner in the Intellectual Property Department of the Seaforth Shaw LLP Washington, D.C. office, and over 20 years of experience in pharmaceutical and biotechnology and IP management, including technology licensing, transactions, due diligence, prosecution, litigation. Dean Finelli joining me on the live line. Hi, Dean.
Good morning, Fawn. How are you?
Good. We almost took up our entire interview time talking about how awesome you are.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So accolades many, but you are looking, first of all, 3,000 people signed up to be basically guinea pigs on this thing. Are you surprised by that?
No, there's actually a lot more than that. And the trial that's about to happen and that are currently happening are phase 3 trials, and some of these are going to have about 30,000 subjects in it.
Wow.
So it's not surprising at all, and we need that large group of subjects to collect data to see if these vaccine candidates actually work.
Yeah, and I mean, they know that there might be side effects or something, but you give them a little bit of cash, they're willing to do it. And I was talking earlier, a buddy of mine's like, I would never do that to my body. I'm like, you're on your third bag of pizza rolls this morning already. What are you talking about? Well, you won't do that to your body. But, these things have to happen. They do it with any sort of new drug or vaccine, don't they?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And your buddy hit on a key point here. Typically, when we're thinking of drug development or vaccine development, you're talking about almost a decade of data that's collected. These trials, phase 1 trials that look at safety and dosage, phase 2 and phase 3, typically could take over a couple years each. Now here, we're in phase 3, 6 months after the genome of the virus was announced, so we're moving incredibly quickly, but I will say, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is literally the preeminent regulatory body when it comes to drugs and drug approval in the world. So they're not going to approve anything until they're confident that, at least based on the data they have in this short time, it is safe and the vaccine candidate that comes forward does work.
Right. And I mean, coronavirus is a real thing. We can argue all day long about masks, but what we're talking about this because I'm getting mask texts from and messages from listeners, and that's a different show. We're talking about the vaccine this morning. And what I want people to understand is we call it the coronavirus, but it's not the only one. It's COVID-19 coronavirus.
Yeah, there have been other coronaviruses. If you think about SARS back in the early 2000s, MERS,
flu, yeah.
There have been others, not many, but this is a novel one. And it does require, even though some of the information that we learned from earlier coronaviruses is available and is being applied to the vaccine development, it is a novel virus that's going to need its own vaccine.
Well, define that a little bit more. When you say novel virus, do you mean you've just never seen it before?
That's right. Yeah, this type of virus, this specific virus has never been seen before, and that's what we mean by novel. But like you were correctly said, there have been other types of coronaviruses that are different but are in that family of coronaviruses. But this particular coronavirus is novel.
So while I was investigating you thoroughly before you came on the show, you're no stranger to this sort of thing. So are you shocked by any of the outcomes you're seeing with the testing of this vaccine? I mean, is it pretty much ho-hum for you, or is it exciting?
Oh, it's very exciting. I mean, like I said, this typically, it's a very slow, drawn-out process, and, most of these drug candidates that are being developed, you don't hear about them until they're about to be approved. Here, because of the humanitarian crisis around the world, it's an Operation Warp Speed with the Trump administration's initiative to get this vaccine to the public. It's really exciting, and it's just incredible, actually, just to see how quickly things are moving.
Yeah, just to be part of it has to be exciting, but I'm a little leery of it because it is happening so fast. And I look at the flu vaccine and its track record of being 40% effective because we have to guess at what strain is coming from the other side of the world before it gets here. Is it the same with this one? Will it morph on us and be like the Borg, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's literally the billion-dollar question. Will these vaccines have the therapeutic antibodies that are necessary? Will they have this memory response such that, you give it to a subject, you give it to a patient, and, several months later, they still have the antibodies for this. That just, we don't know, and we're going to have to see based on the data that comes out of this phase 3 trial.
Mm-hmm. I was reading about that, and it's saying that if you think you had coronavirus in November, you had yourself checked for antibodies, there aren't any there, you're like, oh, I never had it. Well, you might have, because the antibodies don't stick around very long with this thing, apparently.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You may have had it, and they're looking at convalescent patients, their antibodies. They're looking at the antibodies that are developed by these subjects that are being inoculated with these vaccine candidates. So there's definitely a lot of information that we still don't know, but the U.S. FDA is going to do a risk-benefit analysis, and this is a very contagious and deadly disease. The FDA put out guidance in June saying they want to see at least a 50% rate of, meaning 50% of the people that receive the vaccine will show positive results and will not either be able to transmit the virus or at least not have those deadly symptoms that we're seeing in some of these older adults.
Yeah, because we're talking about the U.S. coronavirus cases surpassing 4 million, so that is in and of itself a big number. But when we say cases, there's so much controversy around whether or not it's deadly. I mean, seriously, Dean, I know someone who had this, who had a fever of 99 degrees, didn't even know they had it, went into the doctor just to see what the heck and why he was just feeling a little achy, and he had the coronavirus. So, I mean, when we say deadly, it's not for everyone deadly.
Yeah, that's a good point. We just don't know. And when you think about it in comparison to the flu virus, typically the flu virus infects about 40 to 60 million people. And unfortunately, about, on average, about 10K or so people pass away due to it. Here, we don't know. But like you said, it could be we know of 4 million cases. It could be that, there's already 25 million cases out there that we just didn't have the testing to find it all. So you're absolutely right. This could be, after everything's said and done, maybe there's tens of millions of cases out there and it's not as deadly as we think. So it's a great question, and only time's going to tell.
Yeah, and I mean, you might be the lucky one who doesn't feel anything, but you might be the unlucky one who could die from the flu this year. You never know. So if there's a vaccine, what exactly are we expecting it to do? Because people are expecting miracles here, Dean.
Yeah, so what we're hoping for is, and Dr. Fauci, you've probably heard, he came out and said there could be a potential vaccine available by October. Realistically, it's probably the end of this year. More likely the beginning of next year that we'll have a vaccine available. I suspect it will be rolled out to high-risk people, for example, those over 65. And the Trump administration is really on top of this. They've purchased 100 million doses from Pfizer. They have AstraZeneca and University of Oxford have a separate candidate that the U.S. Will have 300 million doses available. And what we're looking for is at least receiving the vaccine and remaining asymptomatic or not being able to transmit the virus to other people for a period of time such that we can typically eradicate the virus. So if we figure if about 70% of the U.S. gets the vaccine and it lasts for, let's say, 3 to 6 months, at that point, I think, we'd be out of the woods, so to speak, and this transmission, that's rapid transmission that seems to be going on, would subside. Who
should get it first? I think the elderly. What do you think?
I agree 100%. I mean, those are the highest risk people that we know. We've seen or heard just terrible stories about nursing homes, so I agree with you. People over 65 should be the first, and I suspect at the end of this year, before approval of a vaccine candidate, we may see the FDA granting an emergency use for older people.
Okay, and I don't care what color they are. Somebody just sent me a message. Well, they're saying that blah, 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 should be getting it first. It should be the elderly of every color of the rainbow. That's who should be getting it first. Because, I mean, it spreads like wildfire in places where the elderly are all put together. So I don't think there's any argument. Give it to the elderly first.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So when do you think, I mean, of course, we're extrapolating here, but when do you think we're going to know something for sure, Dean?
So we're looking at a time frame of between September and November of when the initial phase 3 data comes out for these trials in the U.S. So Moderna is a company that has a candidate, Pfizer and BioNTech, AstraZeneca. Those are the three candidates that are furthest along. And what I've heard is they should have some important data coming out and reliable data coming out in the September to November timeframe, which would mean, maybe the end of this year we have a candidate, or, by January.
Well, that's, as fast as this year's gone, Dean, that's tomorrow. It's like, boom, the whole year just kind of went poof. And frankly, I think we owe 2019 an apology for what we said about it, because 2020 is like, hold my beer. And it came, it's just been a nightmare. Since March, I feel like I've been in a fog, and I think everyone feels that way. But if people want to get more information on this vaccine, or if they want to sign up for trials, is any of that possible?
Yeah, if you Google clinical trials candidate, there's websites where tens of thousands of people have already registered. The last I checked, I think I saw about over 150,000 people had signed up to test these. So there are websites out there that you can log on to and register to potentially be a candidate.
Oh, Dean, somebody just sent me a picture of Cher's kid in the movie The Mask saying, I'm not taking a vaccine. Not every vaccine is going to make you grow a third eye, everybody, but I don't intend on taking it, Dean, till I know more about it. And I don't want my children to have it till I know more about it. Does that make me a bad person?
I don't think it makes you a bad person. I think it makes you a realistic person. These trials tend to take years to do, and it's a big question. Is the data there to support giving this to people? And as I mentioned, it's a risk-benefit analysis, and the U.S. FDA is on top of that. I've heard that the Trump campaign will start. The Trump administration will start having a media campaign to convince people to take the vaccine when it becomes available. But it's a great question. It's a great point, and I've heard the same thing from a lot of people, that this is going through very quickly. Many people are a little bit nervous to take the vaccine when it hasn't gone through these years of trials. Well,
it's the same reason I'm not getting on a SpaceX rocket, for the person who just said, why am I afraid? Because it just hasn't had enough time. If Jean-Luc Picard were going to take me into the future, I would get on that starship, but I'm just not ready to jump in with both feet. However, I think it's a great big step in the right direction. That's what I'm going to say, and that's where I will leave it, because it's not about my opinion on this. I'm giving you the information about an experimental vaccine that is going at the speed of light, to continue with the space theme here. But Dr. Dean Finelli is an expert on this sort of thing, and that's why he's on the show. So if people want to learn more about you, Dean, or what you do, or what we can expect from this vaccine, if antibodies, blah, 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 any of the clinical information, they should go to that same website, right?
That's right, yes.
Alrighty, give it one more time for the person who just asked.
So my website is safeart.com. They can reach me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if they just Google clinical trials, or at the CDC website or FDA website, there's a tremendous amount of information on the virus there.
All right. I'm so grateful for your time this morning and the explanation of this, because if there's a hot topic, Dean, this is it.
It was my pleasure, Paul. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. By the way, do you have a book or anything out that you want to pimp on the show here?
I do not have a book, no, not at this time.
Well, it's time to start writing, dude.
That's right. But I appreciate it. Yeah. I'll get to work.
All right. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Fawn.
See ya. Bye-bye. Dr. Dean Finelli, the experimental vaccine. Well, it's rolling along.